Call this meeting to order. Roll call. Council at Large Boots.
Here.
At Large Spear.
Here.
Excuse me. Council Ward number 1 Leeper.
Here.
Ward number 2 Anderson.
Here.
Ward number 3 McNeil.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, so to the agenda approval, is there any addition to the agenda? Seeing as there are none, is there a motion to approve this agenda? Boots with first.
Second.
And Leeper with second.
Spear.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Boots.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Alright, so then moving on to the communications, there's one that was scheduled. Brian Ralston. Here. Alright, seeing that he isn't, then we move to the unscheduled communications. So if there's anybody that would like to say anything, you can make your way to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Shirley Eckert, former mayor, 1300 North Avenue. And as many of you know, I want to thank you for giving us this time tonight. A lot has happened since I filed for the application of the Cedar County Freedom Walk, and it's to be located in our town. Douglas Sorensen is scheduled to be here in 2020 to paint the rock honoring a veteran. And we're here tonight to talk about what has been happening because we're so excited. And we have formed a group, the Cedar County Freedom Rock Committee. So anyway, we have a lot going on, and we're very, very happy with the progress that we've made in the last few months. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike Perry, and he's going to fill you in on what's happening with Freedom Rock.
Sorry that you have to look back. My name is Mike Herring. My address is 748 175th Street, Mechanicsville. I've had a lot of people ask me questions about timeline, and that's what I want to do, spend about 2 to 3 minutes talking to you about timetable. The location of the rock is going to be on the front lawn of the courthouse, which I think most of you are aware of. Our goal is to, by the end of the summer, have the footings poured for the rock. The rock is going to weigh somewhere around 45 to 50 tons, 90 to 100,000 pounds. Our goal is 200-300 years from now to have our city leaders not be wondering what the heck they're going to do with the rock that used to be 8 foot above ground, that's now 4 foot above ground. Our goal is to put footings underneath that puppy so that it stays where it's supposed to be. So we had Terracon Engineering, Terracon Consulting come last Wednesday. They did vertical boring samples. From those vertical boring samples, they will then create an engineering blueprint for the footings. Our goal is to have the footings dug forward this summer. Next summer, then, when gravel roads dry out, we will then have Tri-State Crane and Rigging from Cedar Rapids move the rock for us. Once the rock is set next summer, we want to do all the hardscaping and landscaping. One of the things we want to incorporate into the design, which we'd like to talk to you about, is we'd like to put 2 lights behind the rock, so that'd be to the east of the rock, between the rock and the courthouse, within the confines of the rock. Street lamps that are similar to the lamps that are presently on Main Street, so that everything will be uniform. We want to light the rock, and we want to put security cameras on the rock, so if anybody tries to do something stupid like defame it, we'll catch them. So, engineering study, footings this summer, rock move next summer. Shirley indicated that Bubba will be here in 2020. We want to be prepared by late summer 2018 because it's possible he might be able to come in 2019. Once he comes, he paints the rocks. When he pulls the curtains down, if that's what he does, we want it to be done. Everything is in place. We don't want to have to sit there and say, okay, now we have to come up with the hardscaping and landscaping that goes around it. So we're hoping that we can actually get in here by 2019. So I'll stop there if anybody has any questions.
That's great.
I have a question, Mike. I know you're planning to offer pavers that
Yes.
people can put
Yes.
in memory of.
Yes.
Do you know how much you're going to be asking for those, or are they
We're
going
going to be talking about that Wednesday night.
Okay.
Um,
Well, on behalf of my position on the council, I do have a check for a donation towards one for Tom. And I'm hoping, I know you're going around all the councils, that hopefully, the county supervisors all contributed. So
Yes, it is.
I'd like to see us all be part of that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, the supervisors, State Representative Bobby Kaufman, and State Senator Dvorsky all donated last week, so we were very appreciative of contributing towards this.
Okay.
Our goal, and I'm speaking for myself, the last thing I want to do is go knock on doors
Right.
of the community, of the businesses in Tipton. We're hoping that we can get our fundraising done without knocking on doors, lay it out there. If they want to donate, it's perfect. But, our merchants are great and they just get inundated, so we want not to be that person that inundates them.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for all your work on that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Shirley. All right.
Larry Hodgson, 210 East 6th Street, Tipton. Couple of quick updates, and then I got something else I want to talk to you about. Cedar County Bicycle Coalition has now been formed and is up and running. We had our second meeting last Sunday, and we have another meeting scheduled for a week from this Sunday, a week from last night, I guess it was. So anybody wants to pop in is welcome to. We've got a group, a board set up for it already of original members. We do have a couple of things going on, and we decided at that meeting that we want to get involved in the community with bicycling projects as much as we can. So one of the things we did decide to do was get involved with the rag ride bike, which Linda's been trying to get painted and moved uptown for some time, wherever Linda is.
Yeah.
So Ross and I have been working on painting the rag ride bike, and we just about have that project completed. So we hopefully will have it ready to move uptown very soon. I'm also working with a local contractor to start looking at a way to set a base for it so we can get it mounted. And we've already had some support from the city employees to move the bike a couple of times, and I'm sure we'll be able to get some help from them getting it put up there as well. So that's one of the projects we're doing. The other thing is there's a committee on the Cedar County Bicycle Coalition who was looking at the 9-year-old study that was done on bike routes and trails. And they're going to review that, take a look at it, and see if it needs some updating and make some recommendations. Perhaps the city, I'm sure the city will need to get involved in that. Brent, I see Lisa's not here. Is Lisa here tonight?
No, she's
Anybody from the police department?
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sure they'll want to get involved in the safety issues involved with bike routes and trails. We're looking at maybe trying to get some signage and some stuff to make routes safer for kids to ride bikes on. So those are the couple things the Bicycle Coalition is doing, and so wanted to let you guys know, update you on this. The other thing I want to talk to you about tonight is seems to be a little bit of a conflict going on between the chairman of the Tipton Development Commission and the city. And I just think it's a shame that this got to this point before it got resolved. I don't think this should have been that complicated of a problem to resolve before it got to the lawyer stage. Somebody should have grabbed the bull by the horns and set everybody down and said, okay, what do we need to do to solve this problem? And let's move forward. My personal opinion is there's an awful lot of people that live outside of Tipton who volunteer and do a lot of stuff for Tipton, and I know there's a lot of those people that really care about Tipton as much as some of the people that live in Tipton. But I also know that when you have rules and ordinances, you cannot just look the other way. So you need to be enforcing those rules and ordinances. And right now the ordinance says he cannot serve, so we need to fix that. Now I know tonight, later on, you're going to be discussing the role of the Tipton Development Commission. So personally, I don't know a lot about the Tipton Development Commission. And I do know a little bit about the TEDCO. We have two development groups. It appears to me I need to learn more about those. I don't know a lot about them, but what I do know is that in the last 10, 12 years, Tipton has gone from about $3 million in debt to about $12 million or more. Now we're gradually paying that down, but also in the last 10 or 12 years, we have not done a very good job of keeping up our streets and sewers, and we've fallen behind on that. So it makes me wonder, we've got a Tipton Economic Development Corporation, and we've got a Tipton Development Commission, yet I see a lot of things happening in Tipton that I don't like. High debt, streets not taken care of, sewer problems. So, where does this all fit together? What's the role of the Tipton Development Commission? We're going to find that out tonight. But I'd also like to find out how the TEDCO and the Tipton Development Commission fit into the picture and how that's going to work to get Tipton moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mary?
Mary Swan, 1110 Plum Street. I want to kind of go on with that a little bit. And one of the three that have been on the council for a long time, I know can answer this. When did the Tipton Development Commission start? Was that hand in hand with buying the land south of town?
That was before me.
Before me. I've been on for 8 years. And that was done by TEDCO.
It was after.
The land was.
The land was purchased before the Development Commission was formed.
Okay.
Well, is it okay if Stuart answers?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Could you do it louder?
No. My question is, what was the purpose of it when we already had TEDCO and we also have the Chamber of Commerce? So we have three things promoting Tipton, and that seems really redundant to me.
It would be better for Linda to actually address that.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we're doing later on in the
Okay,
meeting
thanks.
too. All right. Thank you, Ms. Swan. Shirley?
Mayor, if I could, our third party is here, and she's got some more info.
Oh, on the rock, yeah, definitely.
I didn't know that, so I.
No problem. Yeah. Have her come on up.
Sorry, I've been home with a sick kid all day, so I'm a little behind. I'm Jill Chambliss, 109 Meadow Lane, Tipton. I am the treasurer of the Cedar County Freedom Rock, and we are doing some fundraising. We will be doing a fundraiser with Family Foods at the end of July to try and cover any monies that we need for this project. We also will be doing pavers that we'll be talking about at our meeting on Wednesday. And then I just wanted to add, in addition to all of the senators and public officials that donated money, all of the elected officials at the courthouse also donated money personally, along with the supervisors. So that's all the fundraising we have scheduled for right now, but we will be doing the pavers and looking at the number that we will have allotted that our landscaper what is designing for us. So, we will be doing a t-shirt fundraiser as well. That's being designed right now. We're hoping it will work out similar to what we did for the 175, having them available for pre-order and also have them available in different places to just purchase outright. We're thinking the price for those are going to be around $15, which would of course give us a little bit of profit on each shirt. So we're working on grants. We're working on the community action matching grant. There is also the Leland Smith grant that we're working on. We were approved for a Thrivent grant for $250 that will help towards our bill at Family Foods for our fundraiser. Any other grants, we're keeping our eye open so we can apply and hopefully get money that way to go towards our budget that we need.
Do you guys have a rendering? You said something about architect. Do you have a rendering that you can show us, or do you know when you'll have one of what it'll look like when it's all done?
We just have a hand-drawn map right now.
Of the rock itself?
No, of the whole entire
The landscape.
Oh, yeah.
landscaping. You do have one
No,
available?
Rock Munster's working on it
Okay.
right now.
That'd be great. Yes. Okay.
Also, you're getting quite a few in-kind trades, aren't you? I mean, to
Yes.
that amount of quite a bit of money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, between the crane company, the trucking company that will deliver the rock, the company that did the vertical boring, we're somewhere around $10,000 of in-kind donated services.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a new project. I don't know if you're familiar, but they actually have bus tours that they're starting. So in all 99 counties, when everything is all set and ready to go, you can take a bus tour. Bob is also scheduled to do a rock in each of the 50 states, probably Washington, D.C. So he's taking it national.
As of right now, there's only 5 counties that have not turned in an application for the Freedom Rock. One of them being Jones County, which is very close, but all of the other counties have, except for the 5, have turned in their application or have already done their rocks, so
And there's 60 completed rocks.
I think so. Yeah. So I think the only other thing I have is to ask you guys to put us as an action item at your next council meeting as to some kind of donation. I can't remember what it was called. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for all your hard work, Jill.
That's okay.
Just to make a point, my sister lives in Jasper County, and they have a Freedom Rock, and she said it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And I hadn't seen it. I graduated from high school in Newton, and but she has. She's seen it, and she says it's beautiful. And I said, we're getting one. She says, are you really? And I said, yeah. So she's excited. She wants to do the whole tour. So, and she will, because she lives on it.
All right. Check one more time for Brian Ralston if he's snuck in. All right. Since there is no more anybody walking to the podium, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which these can be enacted with one motion, which would include approval of the city council minutes from June 5th, the May Treasurer's Investment Report, Tipton Development Commission minutes from April 27th, the airport minutes from May 17th, cemetery minutes from June 5th, and then also liquor license renewal for Family Foods and cigarette license renewals on July 1st. Are there any of these you want to pull out?
Yeah, I had a question, Mayor, on the investment. There were a couple of certificates that were due in March of this year, and they're still showing due, not reinvested, and I'm just curious if those have been reinvested, the numbers haven't been changed, or if we're waiting for some reason to take care of it.
They automatically roll over.
So it does need to change.
So those sheets just come.
Very good, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing there are none, is there a motion to pass this consent agenda? Spear with the first, and Anderson with the second.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
All right, so now we have to have, we will need to open a public hearing for consideration of a proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement. Alex? First of all, I need a motion to open the public hearing. Beaver with first.
Second.
And Spear with the second.
McNeil? Boots? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, well, just to catch everybody up, this is kind of a formality, I think, or I hope, but back last September and October, the city of Tipton authorized McClure Engineering to complete state revolving fund planning and design loan application on behalf of the city for the ongoing sanitary sewer and storm sewer work in town. The first application was $300,000. That amount was to reimburse the city for costs incurred during last spring and summer's flow monitoring and sewer evaluation study project, as well as the ongoing wastewater plant facility planning project. The city approved that, but unfortunately, after the funds were approved by IFA, the city never had a public hearing to actually allow the city to take the money from IFA that had been allocated. So this public hearing is just a requirement to satisfy that IFA requirement to allow you guys to get the money and then use it. And then just as a reminder, the SRF planning and design loan is interest-free for up to 3 years. So it would be $300,000 of debt with no interest for 3 years that you could use to reimburse the city for costs already incurred on the planning work that has been completed or for future planning costs.
All right.
And I'm not aware of any input that we received for tonight's hearing.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Comments?
No. All right, then is there a motion to close the public hearing? Boots with first, and Leeper with the second.
Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And now on to the next one, which is ordinance approval / amendment, which is an ordinance amending our provisions to fireworks.
Yes, as many of you know, the city's current ordinance prohibits both the sale and use of fireworks within the city limits. The state, as you also know, passed a fireworks law which can allow cities to continue to prohibit the use of fireworks, but cities now can't prohibit the sale of fireworks. That puts our current ordinance into conflict with state law when it comes to the sale of. I have talked to a couple members of our city attorney's office, and the way they put it to me was, if we did nothing and tried to keep the same ordinance under the current law, the part of it having to do with fireworks sale is invalid. So if we tried to enforce it, we would be inviting a legal response from those that we kept from selling it. And if we did nothing toward changing it, we would have no regulation for it at all. So their recommendation is what's been included in your packet tonight. It basically adopts the state requirements. So then if somebody sets up, rather than have nothing to show us, they have to at least show us that they comply with the state code and the fire marshal and NFPA requirements. And those requirements are no easy task. And the fire chief is here tonight if anybody has questions about what NFPA requires. But because of NFPA, the effective area where fireworks could be sold is greatly reduced. Now, Lynch Dallas has referred to this as a stopgap ordinance. It can stand for longer, but to the cities they represent, they're representing that cities at least pass this. And then if cities want to look at further restrictions as to zoning requirements, what zone could they be sold in? You can look at that type of an ordinance later. But at least this gets us compliant with the state law right now. So what we're asking the council to consider is to pass all 3 readings of this ordinance tonight so it can be published in the paper as soon as possible and become effective. So that would require you to pass the first motion. Then you would pass a motion to suspend the rules and proceed to the second and third motions, readings. And then you pass a motion to pass the second reading, and then you pass a motion to pass the third reading. Along with that, to do 3 readings, you need a supermajority, so you need at least 4 out of the 5 of you saying yes.
Scott, would you mind quickly running through the requirements real quick?
Quickly?
Well,
The big
just
thing
get
is
the hot spots, if you will.
the big thing that we talked about, that we found, and this is like 122 pages of, it's phenomenal. They have to create a plan to open a business to sell. And with that plan, I left my glasses back there. The big thing, distances from public ways, buildings, facilities, magazines, motor vehicle, fuel dispensing stations, retail propane, flammable and combustible liquids, above ground storage, gas, flammable, anyway, it goes on and on. Has to be 100 feet. That's the minimum distance. If it's less than that, there's requirements on weights and stuff like that. There's a huge chart. Anyway, the thing that I came up with is most of the downtown, I don't think even fits into the category.
And then they won't be able to sell
I
downtown.
don't think so. I'd have to read, I would need somebody with higher education than myself to read this and see if that's what it says. But, and I'm gonna make a copy. I'm gonna see if I can pull this out of the NFPA guidelines, or rules, whatever. And I'll see if I can get you a copy of just the storage of consumer fireworks. Because that's basically what we're looking at, is if you have them in a building. They can only have like 100 pounds, and if it's 100, well, let's see, it's 125 to 250 pounds. Where the building is protected with an automatic sprinkler system. I mean, there's all kinds of rules that they've got to follow. So, like I said before, most of downtown, I don't think will even be able to, they'll be able to sell there. And on the outskirts, I think a lot of them are gonna make it, a lot of the buildings will pass. Brad and I were talking, you could set up in a library, and it would probably almost be legal. Okay, so something like that to think about. Obviously, that's a building that we wouldn't let them do that, but, or maybe, I don't know. But yeah, there's a ton of rules, and going down through them, it's difficult.
So did I read that they have to have the fire marshal's permit?
They already have to have that permit before they can even sell.
Okay, is that hard to get or not?
I guess I don't know.
Okay.
Or wouldn't they have to apply with
No, the state fire marshal.
State
Yeah,
fire
and
marshal.
they have to
Yes, they have to have a state permit before they can even sell.
But then, say, it was gonna be Walmart parking lot or whatever they put their.
Or Walmart.
Walmart has to agree to let them do that, right?
Oh, to sell it, yeah, because
Okay.
we're not allowing tents, correct?
Well,
We
we
can't-
have that say.
We can't prohibit tents.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, they have to get their permission.
Yeah, you would need the property owner.
And then with that, what's the distance from their parking lot? Because Walmart sells LP, right? That would be liquid petroleum storage. So it has to be, I think it's 100 feet from there, which would probably be clear across the parking lot. It could probably be in the corner of it. So there are some, if you, like Brad was saying, if you try hard enough, you can find a way around it. So.
All right. So, amending, is there a motion to, what was the first one?
Be to pass the first reading.
Is there a motion to pass the first reading?
So moved.
Spear with the first and Anderson with the second?
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil? Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Okay, so now is there a motion to suspend the rules and continue to the second and third reading?
So moved.
Leeper with the first and McNeil with the second?
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil? Boots?
Yes.
And then finally, is there a motion to approve the second and third readings of this amendment? Is that right? Oh, sorry. A motion to approve the second reading.
So moved.
Boots with the first and Spear with the second?
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil? Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
And then now it's on to the third reading. Is there a motion to approve that?
Yes.
Anderson with the first?
Second.
And Leeper with the second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil? Boots?
Yes.
All right, so that is approved and will be in the paper, and in our books. Now, moving on to the resolutions for approval, which is, the first one is taking additional action with the sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement. Alex?
Yeah, this is quick, so this is just taking action on the resolution, yea or nay, to you've had a public hearing.
All right. Nothing else new for Alex? All right, is there a motion to approve or deny this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Boots with the first to approve,
Second.
and McNeil with the second.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Alex.
Thanks.
And now to resolution number 2, which is to waive the review of minor subdivision, right?
Yeah. This and the next item are a little bit like the public hearing we just had. It's to get ourselves right with procedure. A while back, I believe in March, the council approved a minor subdivision within the city's 2-mile zone of its city limits. It was done by a simple motion. The developer's attorney contacted me and asked whether a simple motion was the proper thing to do or if it should be done by resolution. I checked with our attorney and he confirmed that it should have been done by resolution. And then he supplied us with a sample resolution. But it had language where it said that the plat that was submitted was found to be in accordance with laws of Iowa and the ordinances of Tipton, which it really wasn't reviewed for that. It didn't go to planning and zoning, and I don't think it was reviewed at the council level in that way. So I don't think the language of that resolution allows the city to certify that that was done, or that we know that the plat is correct and in accordance. So what we're suggesting the council do is instead pass a resolution that waives the city's right to review this subdivision process in favor of letting the county do it under their subdivision ordinance.
So then, this is only 2 parcels and subdivisions outside of city limits.
Right. It's out in the 2-mile zone. If it's in a place that is likely to annex in the future, then the city would want to review it. If it's in an unlikely location, then the city should look more toward waiving its review, because when you put something under the city's subdivision ordinance, it also means that you're putting it under the city's standard specifications when it comes to building a street, building the underground utilities, having it reviewed by the city's engineer. And if in the past, if the city has approved subdivisions that far out of town only by looking at the plat and not looking at the construction standards, we've got something that is out of alignment procedurally. So I have the feeling that time is of the essence with this subdivision and moving forward. If we say we're going to put it under the city's subdivision ordinance and therefore city standard specifications or whatever else goes with that, I have a feeling that we're looking at square one. Whereas perhaps with the county's review and under county standards, it's more befitting of that situation.
So is that what happens if we make a resolution to waive, then it just goes to the county?
It goes to the county, yes.
So would we make this resolution every time a subdivision came up, or just this one time?
It would be a case by case.
Okay.
Well, as far as out of town, I don't think we're gonna be trying to annex it.
You never know, but any other questions on this?
Well, I don't know how the city specs compare with what the county is gonna require, but I would suspect they're either gonna be similar or maybe a little more restrictive. So, You know, the county, the engineer's got to approve it, the planning and zoning's got to approve it, the board's got to approve it. I mean, there's quite a bit of approval going on there, and I don't think that they're gonna let things proceed that they don't foresee as being appropriate.
Okay.
So,
Then, there's no more discussion. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Boots with the first,
Second.
and McNeil with the second.
Leeper,
Yes?
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
All right, so the third resolution of the evening, which is to set a public hearing on a proposed rezoning.
Right.
And this is the one that the lot had both residential and commercial on it.
Right, and so to try to set it right, this is to rezone it to where it has commercial zoning. This was one where planning and zoning met on it, but they have to hold, when they're looking at a rezoning, they have to hold a specific public hearing. It has to reflect that in the minutes, and then they have to pass their recommendation on to the council by resolution. So we couldn't point to a public hearing that was held. We couldn't point to, or we didn't have a resolution that was passed to come your way. And so at the last planning and zoning meeting last week, we just had them redo everything, only they held a public hearing that's reflected in their minutes. They passed a resolution with their finding of facts, which is in your packet. And so now if you agree and want to continue, the next thing that we would do is have the council set a public hearing tonight for your next meeting. And if that is approved or goes through fine, then we would be looking at 3 readings of the rezoning ordinance on that.
So the next one would be July 3rd.
Right. And on that one, if time is of the essence and there's no problem in waiving readings, you might consider it for that one too,
At that time, though.
at that time.
All right. Is there any other questions or discussion on that? Then is there a motion to set the public hearing for, what is it, July 3rd?
Yes.
So moved.
Anderson with the first and Boots with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
All right, so July 3rd, we will have that first public reading. And then the final resolution is accepting an FAA grant offer for the Matthews Memorial Airport pavement maintenance project.
Well, I can cover it.
Okay.
It basically is a grant agreement with the FAA on the project that you're already familiar with. It sets the federal portion of the project at $161,829. So with your approval of the resolution, then it authorizes the city to execute a grant agreement.
All right. Is there a motion to
So moved.
approve this? Leaper with the first
Second.
and Spear with the second.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
All right, then down to the motions for approval, which is the first one is the claims list. Is there any of the claims that you guys want to pull out and discuss? Seeing there are none, is there a motion to approve the claims list? Anderson with the first, and McNeil with the second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
All right, so then now we go to consideration of quote for radio upgrades in the fire truck. Here he comes.
You guys have 2 quotes there in front of you. One's from Graybill Communications, the other one's from Business Radios. Basically, all I'm asking for permission, I've got money left over in budget. I need to funnel it into, or we decide the account was equipment or something like that, so I can purchase these radios. About 6 months ago, Tim Malott was in, said the county was going to the P25 system, October of 2018. I was asked at that time if I had it in budget. I do have money left over in budget that I could buy some of them. The price from business radios at $37.10 a piece, you can see there that the discount was $32.30 per radio. That's a super buy. I'm definitely asking to go with that bid as well. So I guess I'm asking for permission to use money that's in my budget to buy these.
So that's gonna purchase two, how many are you gonna ultimately have to purchase overall?
I'm hoping that I have enough to buy more than two to get as many as I can at that price. Two was the price that he shot me at, two or more, he would sell it to me at that price.
How many is your total that you have to purchase?
I think we need 7 before October of 2018. So as many as I can buy for that price, I'll get them done as soon as I can. The other thing, I need to apologize for not having a representative here 2 weeks ago with the thermal imaging camera. It failed, I was at work, we needed to purchase a replacement, so.
You can get two now?
What's that?
You can get two now?
At least two. Like I said, we're gonna sit down with what I've got left, what other outstanding bills I have left, and then whatever money I've got left over in budget we'll use to buy those radios. If we can buy all 7, I could, but I don't have that much left, so.
And then the following year, that's when you'll replace the rest of it?
Hopefully finish out the rest of the project, so it's done before October of 2018.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve this quote?
So moved.
Lieber with the first and Spear with the second.
Spear?
Yes.
Lieber?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Boots? Yes. Anderson?
Yes. All right, then we go down to the reports to be received and filed. Is there a motion to approve the receiving and the filing of the Development Director Report and the Water Wastewater Report? Do you need to ask any questions to either Linda or Brian? So this needs to be-
Make
Yep.
a couple comments if I could.
Definitely.
At the past council meeting, which I was not here, I apologize to answer to the subject, but I was informed that there was a citizen had questioned the dates and the validity of the water quality report that was recently sent out to all the water customers. So I was hoping I could explain that a little bit, speak into that a little bit for you tonight. The DNR gives us water operators what's called a public water supply operation permit. It's renewed about every 3 years, and this is kind of the operator's Bible right here. This is what we have to follow down to the letter. And on about page 3 of that, it tells you the dates of everything that you have to test for. And a copy of this was put into your council packets. I hope you got a chance to see them. Also, a copy of the water quality report was put in there. And then the other thing was that I put in there was last year's copy that was prepared by Alliance Water Resources. And I just threw that in there so that you could compare the two and see how they look side by side. But I'd be glad to just hand this around the room too, if I could. If you'd like to take a look. So the operator's permit, like I was saying on that page, and I think what could have possibly brought the question up was some of the reports actually said on them 2013, 2014, for instance. I think barium was last tested on 2014. Well, on this page that I was talking about, like SOCs, which is synthetic chemicals, test once every 6 years. Next time up is 2019, so 2 years from now. So last time we would have done that would have been 2013, which is why that result would look aged on that report. So the other thing I was going to say is if we miss anything, that's one of the beautiful things about my job and the pressure that comes with it, is that if I miss anything, or if we have a level that comes back that is beyond the MCL, we get a notice of violation. And not only do I get it in the mail, the city office gets one, the city manager gets one, and the mayor gets one, and they're all individual copies. So if I make any mistakes, it'll be, and not only will it be an NOV, notice violation, and a letter sent to us, but it has to be published in the paper as well. So, only reason I bring that up is I just want you all to be confident that we're doing all our requirements to the letter, right down to the letter of the law. And then just one more thing, this water quality report is actually prepared by the DNR. They hold all my results at Region 6 office. They throw together those results. They throw together in this format, CCR. They send it to me. They say, Brian, publish this before you do. Check your results. Make sure this is correct. If you have any additions, corrections, modifications, do those. Send it out. After you do, and we did in May, we sent them out with utility bills. They went out first, second, third, and fourth week of May. We sent them out. The girls in the office did that for us. And then, then what I have to do is certification of publication. So I follow up with a page form letter from the DNR that I sign and date, just saying that I did it. But this page, this CCR, is actually prepared by the DNR and given to me to distribute. So to argue with the dates or the results would actually be the same as arguing with the agency that regulates us. So that's all I have. Unless anybody has any questions.
No? Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you,
Brandon.
Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, so is there a motion to receive and file these reports? Boots with the first, and Anderson with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
All right, so those have been, those will be received and filed. And now, moving down to letter N, which is discussion items with no action. And the first one for the evening is the role of the Tipton Development Commission. And Ms. Boots, it actually has to
Yeah, I had asked to be able to address everyone to kind of give a background on this. Larry actually took a couple of my points and presented them already. Thank you for that. Just a background for everyone. I'm on the Development Commission. And like Larry, I'm disappointed at the accusations and the unprofessional comments that have been made to the mayor or about the mayor. And I think it's a shame that it made front page news. Yes, it should have been headed off before it got that far. This is a copy of the ordinance. And at a meeting a couple of months ago, I was asked a question that I couldn't answer. And if I don't have the answer, I go find the answer. And as a result of that, I received a copy of this ordinance. Since I received it, so that I don't have information the rest of the council doesn't have, everyone received a copy. So Brian didn't go looking for this. He didn't have an agenda. This was mine. I had the agenda that I needed to answer a question. That's why everyone got presented with this. As an ordinance, we are required, like Larry said, and obligated to follow it. When we take this office, we sign a court officer's oath, and we attest to the fact that we are going to follow the laws of the state of Iowa and the city of Tipton. That's what we're doing, just so everyone knows that. And leave it to you now.
All right, thank you, Ms. Boots.
Thank you.
Linda? There you go. Would you mind walking up to the podium? This is the role of since they, the Development Commission are your boss as well. And also, we did find a discrepancy in our job description and our code that will need to be rectified. It says that the Economic Development Director will report directly to the city mayor in the job description. But in the city code, it says the Director of the Development Commission is the report to. So, does anybody have any comments about or questions with the Development Commission? Because what I was thinking with this is that as we have been in a little bit of a limbo for the last year and a half, having an interim city manager, that I'm not saying we're going to go through every department with a fine-tooth comb, but reconciling how our departments all work together and how we can all become a team. It just so happened that this issue popped up kind of in our laps, and so kind of take this moment in time to come together with a consensus on how we go from here. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, Linda, how much time do you think you actually get to spend on developing our economic and workforce and businesses here?
Well, it's a piece of, it's a pie.
Yes.
And so I'm going to back up just a little bit. So when I was hired that I worked with TEDCO and the chamber, the city, and then the commission. And so with TEDCO, a few months ago, I completed a huge report that dealt with industry in our community. I had to give a lot of stats on jobs, current jobs, the airport, the schools, and you can come to my office and look at this. And the point of that was TEDCO works with ICAD, that's Iowa City. It's a development organization as well. So what we try to do is when a business or industry is interested, we send those stats. We send those stats. Now, it's not saying that Tipton's going to get anything, because sometimes industry, and I've been at link with Brian talking about water flow and sewer and getting educated with that. So all that information goes out to prospects. So that's how I help TEDCO. So that's one piece of the pie. The second piece of the pie is with the chamber. And what I do with the chamber is I promote Tipton, and I work with our businesses, and I also work with the businesses with TEDCO as well. But I'm more in the industry with the chamber, a lot of the downtown, other businesses as well. When somebody new is coming to town, usually my office is the first stop. There's been many times that I've taken prospects to buildings that are for rent, lease, or for sale. But I'm trying to promote our community with huge events that go on, and that was one thing that when the Downtown Walk-Around Committee from Des Moines came here, they were very happy that the city, the chamber, and then TEDCO, that we were working as a unit, and the puzzle was fitting very nicely, because a lot of cities don't have that. And then I report all this information also to the commission. When I was hired almost 2 years ago, and I by no means am an expert because I still am learning. When I was hired, it was the city manager at that time, who would have been Chris, and then the commission board. They were the ones that interviewed me and the other candidates. And I was told at that time that those that had that had preceded me, there were often a lot of chiefs and not enough Indians. And that this office, there was 10 people telling me to do something constantly, and everybody had a different agenda and a different idea. So at that time, the commission, and I know Dean had sat in on that meeting with the commission when I was hired, I was told that the chain of command was going to be that the commission was the one that had governed me. So the president of the commission, then I would report to him and to the commission. But I would give reports to all the other organizations, because the commission is made of 2 people from TEDCO, 2 people from the chamber, 2 people from the city, and then 1 at large. And the 1 at large happens to be Todd Miller. So I have those monthly meetings. The pie is different all the time. I can't even tell you like the percentage that I work on different things, because it is different all the time. I try to keep on top of everything with all of the entities. And yeah, sometimes perhaps I work a little more with another entity, but then the next day it might be somebody else. And it's just keeping track of all of that. Do I ever keep track of my hours that way? How many hours I'm working maybe with chamber event or TEDCO or something the commission wants me to do or the city? I don't. Because that would be mind-boggling to me. I can hardly keep track of my pie right now because there's a lot going on constantly. And so I just try to make sure that I promote our community. And that's kind of the bottom line, that I care about our community a lot. And I know all of you do, and I know those organizations do too. I know that. And I only want what is best for Tipton. That has always been my number one goal. And I try to work real hard with all of that. And I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. I have another one. I don't know if anybody else can answer it. The TEDCO versus Tipton Development Commission, the way it was explained to me was that Tipton Development Commission kind of focuses on the downtown area, where TEDCO focuses more on the industrial.
The industrial, but the chamber also focuses on the downtown area and again with promoting the city. Because I was taught quite a while ago when I had gone to the economic development to get my first certification with that. One of the things that I was taught was, in order to bring businesses to your community, the first thing you have to do is promote your community, that a family's going to want to move here. And one of the things that they look at is our school system, which is fabulous here, with the enrollment up. So I try to concentrate on those areas too. And the numbers change a lot, especially with industry. And I try to get those numbers so it's accurate. So if I have to send out a report very quickly, it is very quickly done because it took months to get all the data. And now all I have to do is change a line on that.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments? Yeah, go.
I agree with Leanne and Larry. I don't know how we got to this place. And I haven't been contacted by anyone from TEDCO Commission or anything about what's going on. I feel like, from my viewpoint, that a lot of all this got crossways when we were trying to decide on a location where to move to.
I agree.
And the city's position, and I go with this because interim city manager Tim Long said at a chamber meeting that working with the TEDCO Commission president and then wanting the city to rent a property of theirs raised the hair on the back of his neck. If it looks like a conflict, it is a conflict.
Well, can I interrupt just for one moment?
You bet.
The TEDCO president is Jim Reed.
Yeah, you meant to say.
I meant commissioner.
Okay, yeah, so I don't want the
Right,
entity
and I'm
to get
sorry,
mixed up.
I
Okay,
misspoke.
yeah. And the commission then is Mark Niles,
Right,
president.
right.
Okay, I just didn't want that
Right.
to get mixed up.
And before I even say any more, I think what Dr. Niles has done for our community, and I hope will continue to do for our community, has been awesome. I mean, I think his heart has always been the right place. It just appears to be a conflict. And what I don't like especially is that it put you in the middle of a not very nice or comfortable place. I think that probably we have to do what we all know we should have done at the beginning, is sit down and talk about it and what his role will be in this, because I really do think that when you're in a position of having it appear that you will improve your situation, this isn't going to look good to the public.
And with my office, if I can back up a little bit with that too, just so everybody understands,
boy, if I'd have had a crystal ball, you know. But the reason why I had requested a different office is, honest to God, the first day I was hired, I noticed I did not have a back exit. And with me being the only person in that office, and sometimes I worked late, no one ever, if there had been trouble, nobody for hours would have ever known that there was trouble in that office or that I couldn't get out. And I watched the tankers go up and down Cedar Street. And I later saw the car that was in Citizens Bank. And I have water problems. But that didn't bother me as much as I couldn't get out. And you know, it bothered me a little bit that got lost. That the real purpose of what really was going on got lost somewhere. And you know, I just want to be safe. And yeah, maybe I couldn't get out a back door if I had to, but at least I would have had a second exit to try to get out of. And that's the only reason that I ever brought this up, was because with me being by myself, probably 80–90% of the time, because I do have people coming in, and I'm glad that I do, because if there would be trouble, they could help me. But nonetheless, there might be a day that nobody comes in, and it'd be 5:30, 6:30 before anybody, because I don't even check in with the city. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not calling and saying I'm leaving now.
And I do hear you when you say you don't feel safe. I hear that.
And there's no one has ever done anything that has made me feel frightened. Yes, I have strangers come in my office before, but I'm not frightened by that. They've never shown me a reason to be frightened. However, I don't think of it all the time. I go to work, I love my space. If it had a back exit, we'd never be having this discussion. But I'm by myself. And I like being by myself, because let me tell you, I get a lot of work done. You know, you don't have very many interruptions. And so it wasn't that I wanted to be with anybody, it's just I didn't have that back exit. And to me, that's a safety issue.
We never got all of our numbers either for rent.
I'm sorry.
We never got all of our numbers for rent costs. You know, the 1, 2, and 5.
You know what, I was told to wait till we had our city manager. Yeah, and so
Okay.
I was told to wait. I had done that several times before, many times. I spent a lot of time on that. But when you're ready and I get the okay from everybody, I will be very happy to get all those numbers again. But I was told to wait, and so that's what I did.
I told you to wait.
Well, I was told that it had.
Yeah, I think we did talk about it at a meeting. To wait till we had a manager.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
You weren't here.
Yeah, and perhaps you weren't, Tim, I don't know. But I just do as I'm told. And
Yeah, one other important piece of information, Dr. Niles has been very precise about leaving the room whenever anything was discussed in a meeting about the building or anything of these conflict of interest. He has been very careful about not having any input in that area in front of the commission.
I think that's true at the beginning, Dean, that did happen, but as things progressed.
I did miss the last meeting.
And since he stands to profit from a 10-year rental agreement, he needs to recuse himself as the head of that committee, and he hasn't always done that.
I think that when we toured the prospective offices for you, we asked afterwards to give us an apples comparison for each one. And one of them was not, how can I say, huh?
One of them wasn't an apple. Orange.
One of them would not give us an apples-to-apples comparison. They had their agenda set, and it was our way or the highway.
Well, and I think if you
And
want
the other people came along and gave us what we were asking for. We did not, I didn't personally, like to see that we had to sign a 10-year lease. And they wouldn't come down, they wouldn't change. And we couldn't see that that was a feasible amount to sign a lease for. I didn't think that was feasible for the city to sign a 10-year lease for an office for you. It's not that we don't want you around in 10 years, that's not the thing. It's just that we would be locked into that amount for a 10-year period. And it was also the highest amount of rent that was being asked. So we thought.
Well, that particular rent was not.
Uh-huh.
The 10-year lease was $675. The others were between $800 and $900.
Yes, but for 10 years.
Right.
That's why we said no.
Right,
You know,
for 10 years.
I personally said no to 10-year lease. We don't need to sign a 10-year lease for. That's just.
And if you so direct me now, I am very happy to go after the stats again that list the lease amount or the years, lease years and rent, and set up tours again if you want to go. I'm happy to, but I wanted to make sure Brian was available. Yeah, I'm city manager was available. And I will do whatever is directed of me. I'm happy to do so.
Well,
If it
that
can
would
wait
be
till after
good.
the
I
4th of
would
July.
appreciate that. We would like to have those numbers back together
Okay.
so we could present them to Brian and have him
Yep.
give us the information that we.
Do you remember that 10-year lease, did it have any sort of out clause?
No, that's
No, we
what
didn't get that far.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what we were asking for. What if we only were here for 2 years?
Yeah.
And then what would it cost us to get out of this lease? And we didn't get that result.
I'm very happy to do so, if you so direct me.
On July 5th.
Yeah. Actually,
No, yeah.
you're not even July 5th, because we need
Yeah.
help with cleaning, so, yeah, after the 4th, I can get that info.
Well, as everybody up here knows, what we do is a function of how you vote and where the votes lie and what you're willing to do or not do. And the matters you have are the location of the development director. Will the ordinance be redrawn in some way, either to make it more open-ended or make it more precise or restricted? We're getting to a point where on these things, we're going to need some sort of guidance for the staff to know where you want to go on these things.
And that's kind of how I was going to close, that it kind of sounds like our council is leaning towards, as far as the code and the ordinance governing the eligibility for commission members, of sticking with our legal analysis from our attorney, in which case that would make Mark Niles ineligible to serve.
Brian, can I, as a member of the commission, ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Would you guys be willing to possibly redraw the current code? Would you be possibly looking at that? Willing to look at something like that? Because I guess when I heard about this, my thing was that we put so much time volunteering, especially through the chamber, but on the commission development as well. And we have such a hard time finding any volunteers. There's a constant group of 5 of us on the chamber board alone that are doing almost all of the events. and we put out stuff in the mail to look for volunteers, and we can't find it, and now just because somebody doesn't live in city limits, we're telling them that you can't help us for free, we don't want your free time. So that's why we're just wondering if you'd be willing to redraw it. So TEDCO is representing TEDCO, not the city of Tipton. The chamber is representing the businesses downtown, and how many of our business owners live in town, that they should be able to represent the board, because if I lived in the country, I'm here for this town just as much as everybody else, if I brought my business here or whether I lived here or not.
There's nothing
But
wrong
I
with-
guess-
Nothing wrong with the way the ordinance reads.
Isn't
It
the
just needs to be
chamber,
enforced properly.
isn't the chamber and the TEDCO committee both allow you to have businesses in town and live out of town?
Right.
Right. So I believe, in my opinion, I think that when the ordinance was written for the TEDCO commission, it's all
Yeah,
a
you
little,
mean
yeah.
the development commission.
The development commission.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That there had to have been a reason that they said, you know, you have to live in town. I don't know. I didn't write it. I wasn't a part of it.
Well, I don't.
So there's, you know, two
I
other
think there's
places that they
possible
can
for
fit in.
Pam, I would
They don't
say,
have to stay the same way for
this
50 years.
organization is conducted by the city of Tipton. That's where we have our jurisdiction, and I'm guessing that's why the ordinance was written in the way it was written.
Right.
So that you live in Tipton.
Because business people that don't live in the city, they can be on TEDCO, they can be on the chamber. But this is designated by the city of Tipton.
Dr. Johnson?
As a person that serves on TEDCO and the commission too, I just question, I think there just needs to be clarification on what we mean by Tipton, because it doesn't say Tipton city limits. It says Tipton. Does that mean the district of Tipton? Does it mean an address of Tipton? And so to me, it's, unless I read it wrong, I don't remember it saying it. I understand that in general it would most likely mean the city of Tipton, but it doesn't really say it that way, if I'm correct.
I would defer to Holly, because I believe that was the legal opinion, is
Yeah.
that it means the city of Tipton.
Yes, I would say it means the city of Tipton. City is defined in the code as city of Tipton, and Tipton isn't specifically defined, but if it's not defined, then you go to its ordinary meaning, which would be the city of Tipton.
But I think that's kind of where some of our confusion is coming from. And then just the fact that it says if you moved out, you know, there's another point of just clarification and talk, because there's been no move. And so nobody moved. And that's where the contention is. So I think if we just get to the bottom of having the clarifications and move forward, I appreciate everybody working towards wanting to follow a policy. I mean, I'm a policy person myself. So anything we can do for clarification would be good, so we can address it. But I think also someone that's been serving on it and they haven't moved, it just feels kind of icky how this has all been going down, and it doesn't feel good.
There's
But
also the fact that the appointment was up in July of 16.
Yeah.
So his appointment had expired as well.
Well, I believe the consequences of this could go even further. I'd like to consider Larry's comment in his letter and I would support that with the rest of the council.
We have to remember, we are representatives of the city
realize
of Tipton.
that,
We don't have any control outside those city limits.
Exactly.
That's why this commission was developed by the city of Tipton. That's why I believe that requirement is there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, Larry.
Does anybody know exactly when this commission was first brought up? I think TEDCO pre-existed the Development Commission. Is it,
Right there.
how many years ago was it?
I'm
12?
thinking 12 or 13.
So Mark Niles has been on since the inception. And the people that wrote the ordinance for the Tipton Development Commission put him on there when he lived out of Tipton at the time. Mike, you know, if you write an ordinance and then you violate it before you even get off the ground, I look back at those people then. Why did they do that? Maybe they could answer that question. Why did you put him on back then? If you really didn't want anybody living outside of Tipton on there, why did you put him on? I agree with Marlene. If I ask Irene, somebody from Cedar Rapids says, Irene, where do you live? What are you going to say? Tipton, aren't you?
Right.
Darn right. She lives way out west of Tipton, but she's from Tipton. Everybody that lives in the Tipton, with a Tipton address or in Tipton School District considers themselves from Tipton. And if you shut out, like somebody said, about all the volunteers, potential good volunteers that you've got outside of the city limits of Tipton, who really care and own property in Tipton, you're diminishing the pool of people you have that can do something for Tipton. I live in Tipton, but I would have no problem with somebody like Mark Niles serving on the committee because I know he cares about Tipton. You know, go back to the people that wrote this ordinance. Maybe they had second thoughts. Maybe they wrote it and said, well, maybe we should let somebody. And maybe it's not too late to fix it. Is it too late to change it?
Larry?
This is what struck me, and this is a little bit off the subject, but when I read the newspaper article, the thing that struck me the most was, he's been heading us up for 13 years. I would like to see term limits.
Well, they do. That's
On
what
that.
his limit, or his term expired in July.
Yeah, but he
And then-
served 2 terms.
And then he wasn't reappointed.
Each term is 6 years, so he's served 2 terms plus another year now, and that seems like that should be changed. You serve 1 term and that's it, and you're off for 6 years, maybe you can come back 6 years later. But that, that should be passed around. I don't know if the rest of you agree. I was just flabbergasted when I read that. That's too long.
I want to go way back for just a second. And I'm talking back to the early 90s when we were trying to explain what Sedco, Tedco, and the Chamber even was, let alone what their hopes and their plans and their dreams were. If you go back and you pull those minutes from those meetings back in the early 1990s, you are going to see Mark Niles, Mark Niles, Mark Niles, Mark Niles. And I know that for a fact because I took those minutes. Now, if you've got an issue with your ordinance or whatever, I mean, I don't know anything about that. And I don't do math. But I'll tell you that's a lot of years and an awful lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and dedication and heart and concern that this man has given to this community. And if you yank that out, you, as a council, you're harming us because you are taking all of that knowledge and all of that experience and everything else that he has given us and that he knows, and you're just taking that all away. And unless things have changed a whole lot since the early 90s, people aren't pounding on the door to volunteer. And volunteer is the really big word here. So until you come up with people or you know of somebody that has his knowledge, his experience, and everything else that he brings to the table every time he walks through the door, you're kicking Tipton in the teeth. You're taking away somebody that's really benefiting this organization.
Now, don't get me wrong, I've never heard anybody up here say that he could not attend.
I'm not saying that, but
Or
can't it be rewritten? I mean, there aren't the volunteers. There aren't the people that's willing to give and do what Mark Niles has done. And he's lived out there for 20 years.
And continues to choose to leave his business here.
Yeah, he doesn't have to do that. He can pull that right out of Tipton.
And it's not just one business, it's businesses. I mean, he does a lot.
He does a lot in this community. And I think this is horrible what you're doing.
we're trying to follow the city code.
Well, after 20 years, after him being, does anybody know how long he's been in business in Tipton?
Since the early 80s.
businessmen?
This is in the mid-80s, I believe.
So we're trying to bring businesses to Tipton, right?
And who's more vested in this town than business people? They're very vested. Because they have something to lose also. If businesses and things aren't brought into Tipton, then they lose out too, because the community's not expanding.
You know, a few minutes ago, you did 3 hearings on the fireworks ordinance change. So you can't tell me that codes and ordinances can't be changed. You could do it.
That's right.
You could do it in one meeting if you wanted to. But if you're saying to all these people out here who are arguing that it needs to be changed, that it can't be changed, then I think you're being obstinate.
I don't think anybody said that.
Well, I don't hear much comment up here. It sounds pretty much like you're set with the code you've got. I don't hear anybody saying we need to review that code and consider changing it. I haven't heard of one of you say that, Jim.
Yeah, I had.
Okay, Dean, that's right.
My-
Dean did.
My question is,
So,
you want to go ahead? My question is, if the ordinance is changed to open it up to someone who's out of town, is the ordinance changed that it's no longer a mayor's appointment? I mean, is this about having it opened up to people from outside the city limits, or is this about one person specifically being appointed? Because under the ordinance we have now, it's a mayor's appointment. So even if a person from outside the city limits is eligible, the mayor still doesn't have to put up that name.
And it has to go before the council to be approved.
So is that, I mean, I get the feeling it's about this particular appointment. Is that right?
I have a question regarding the appointment from Chamber. The Chamber chooses who the 2 people are. It's not appointed by the mayor.
Actually,
It actually says-
by code, yeah.
But did Tedco appoint who they chose to be in the commission?
I thought that I was under that understanding that Tedco,
But that was another part of the code that wasn't being followed, that the mayor's office chooses from the pool of the chamber and Tedco, and then at large, and then 2 council members.
So I'm not saying that it be rewritten to pick whomever, but I'm saying that let the chamber pick their representatives, let Tedco pick their representatives, and then the mayor can pick the council and the one, at large or whatever. how it's
Mayor
called.
doesn't pick the council, the citizens pick the council.
Oh, no, so be on the
but who
commission.
serves on
She's
it?
talking about the appointment for the
Yeah.
development
But
commission.
it's still, the point is that they could be on the chamber or the Tedco. I mean, it's his choice to want to be on the development. And I don't know what the reason is for that.
His choice to
but-
be on the chamber or Tedco, but.
Right, he could, there are 2 other organizations that do very similar things that are code available to him or
My
whatever.
understanding was he was the only other one that wanted to do it for
That
Tedco. Nobody else.
Nobody wants it.
Nobody
Then-
wanted to do it.
By legal interpretation, the seat is.
No, I understand that. That's just what I'm
Just trying to
recommending
figure
to
it all out.
possibly be redrawn in those types of terms.
Because it's been done a different way for 12 or 13 years, and now that it's been brought to our attention, doesn't mean that it was right to do it the other way.
I didn't bring my point up because it's Mark Niles. I could care less who it was. I don't think it's right. Anybody who had served as long as that, as a volunteer who cared about and owned property in Tipton, that's my point. If they own property in Tipton, live in the Tipton area, if they really care about Tipton, I don't think it's a Mark Niles thing as much as it is changing the code. Because you may run into 5 years from now, maybe you won't want to be on the board again. And then maybe somebody else in the country might be willing to take the job, you know? I just think we need to open it up.
Ms. Cuthbert?
Well, I was just gonna say, it's mayor for 8 years, and I've appointed a lot of people and been to all of those meetings. It never came up. It wasn't a problem. And the previous mayor for 8 years, who served on those boards, and after he wasn't mayor, also served on you know, the TECO board was part of the whole thing all the time, that all these people were there. You know, you look back at all the people that volunteered, particularly on the TEDCO board that have businesses in Tipton, but they live out of town. And I think that's the criteria. You've got to have people that are, you know, invested in this town, care about this town, and they go on to, you know, the commission because they've been a part of it, they know what's going on, and that one word, that one thing that somebody found that nobody's ever looked at before, okay, change it. That is so simple to do. As a community, do we want everybody, I mean, there might be other people on that commission who build a home out of town. That means they're gone.
I've notified them.
You know, it's just that, that shouldn't be the reason why these people can't serve. Their kids go to school here, they're part of the community, and like I say, for 16 years through all of the TEDCO and the commission and the position that Linda has, none of that has ever been brought to anybody's attention to keep somebody off. And how it came about now that somebody looked into it, I don't know, because I don't know what the question was that brought you to this point. But I just think you have to look at all the people that serve in all of these things for free. Normally they serve once a month for an hour. They go home, they're still not done. They have other things that they have to do. So you're just taking away something that it just seems so unneeded. But
You have to consider our position up here. Where do the exceptions and the changes stop? Do all of a sudden we're going to be rewriting every ordinance because there's something that's just not right and we want it to be right? I mean, you have to look at that aspect of it. We can't just be redoing something for one thing.
But this
Or
is a
we
really
have to
good,
consider everything.
this is a really good time to look at those things though, because it's even like that in school policies. It's like some things are the law, so you have to do it that way no matter what. Other things are, if you're not doing it that way, you either change the policy or you change what you're doing. So either way, so I think, there just needs to be that clarification, and this is a good time to look at that with that clarification of what does Tipton mean. And I hope that it would mean eventually someday people that live in Tipton, because serving on those boards, I know, even as we look for people to want to do things, even at TEDCO, it's hard to get people to come on, and it's hard to say, come serve, But if they have a business in town and they live in our area, in our Tipton residence area, I think that's the thing that wasn't very clear in this ordinance. So either way, something has to change, because there isn't that clarity there.
And he pays taxes. I'm sure his taxes
Yeah,
on the business are far greater than a residence.
So, Dr. Johnson, with open enrollment, what would you consider our school district?
Open enrollment is a different story, but the district, open enrollment, you could have people come in from Washington and be here, but they don't have to have an address, but there's a protocol and a process to be able to be a Tipton student.
So what would be our school district? What would we call our school district?
Well, that would be up to you to decide. I consider it, what we're talking about here, I would consider with a Tipton address. But, that's a different story with open
I have a
enrollment.
Mechanicsville address, and I'm in Tipton School District. I was on the school board for 6 years. So you need to be careful.
Yeah.
Jill.
See, then that's what I mean. You got to figure that.
Right. We
So
could
my
change
question-
it in
my
a lot of
question is,
regulations.
So if the mayor appoints 2 people from chamber, 2 people from TEDCO, and however the city in that large does it, so if you were to choose 2 people from the chamber board, which I'm not a part of, and those people don't want to be part of the commission and don't show up for the meetings, it's like not even having anybody then. So can that be changed, that the chamber appoints their 2 people to be on the commission?
I believe it all can be changed, but
I'm sorry, on the matter of appointment, don't think a city council can assign away its ability to make appointments to public boards and commissions. I think you could probably have a system where a board nominates its members for appointment, and then the council and mayor consider that. But I don't think a council can delegate or assign or shed itself of its appointment power.
So if the chamber's bylaws right now, we're saying the two people from chamber that are on the commission are the president and the vice president, that basically means nothing because it has to be appointed by the mayor.
Well, in the city's point of view, an ordinance would be more of a lawful guide to follow than another group's bylaws.
Could I make a suggestion that we maybe table this evening, and the parties that need to sit down and maybe meet, or certain people from the council, so we don't have to have a whole nother meeting, you and the mayor and somebody from the council, and then Dr. Niles and whoever needs to come from the commission, the development. Late day.
Yeah, you guys are at the commission.
Yeah, okay, the commission.
And development.
Yeah. That's very
You're
good.
welcome.
Brian, can I get clarification on one thing you said? If TEDCO currently nominates its people and presents them to you, are you saying that that's not the way you understand it? We have two representatives. We make our recommendation to you, then you make a recommendation for approval to the council, and the council approves those two members.
The way that Holly Torkery explained to me was that the mayor's office chooses from those two pools. There's no recommendation right now. Is that correct, Holly?
That's correct. It's in 25.02, and it's also in 15.03.
Okay, so is what we have to work from with TEDCO different from what you're citing? Do we have different rules that we're operating under?
I guess I'm not.
You know what I'm saying? We've always been under the impression as a TEDCO member that we present the name to you for approval. So where did we get off track on that? Do you know?
I don't know historically where you would have got off track, but that impression that you have is not reflected anywhere in the city code or ordinances.
And the only other thing I would say is even if that system stayed in place, and Pam and I talked about this, you know, it was thrown out that if we didn't have the boundary, say we suggested somebody from Arizona. Well, you have you cannot recommend that person if you don't want to, and the council doesn't have to approve, so when people are throwing out things like from another state, logically, that's not going to happen. That's basically what I want to say.
Mr. Fry?
I have had the pleasure of working with city council before, and also with serving as TEDCO past president, and on the commission with Dean Anderson, and been able to see a lot of this work, and everybody's comments are absolutely right. Dr. Niles has given and given and given to this community for so many years. Point to consider, and I understand the perplexity that you're looking at as the council, but I agree, Commissioner, these things can be changed. There's no reason why it cannot. You're worried about, you know, here's part of it. Somebody can move into this community, not own a business, rent an apartment, not pay property tax directly, and still be considered for this commission to be on it. Dr. Niles, like a lot of us in this community, have property here that we pay property taxes on that feed all of this in our little town. I would go along with the consensus of most of the people sitting here. I called Dr. Niles right away when I read this. Didn't talk to him, but I talked to his staff, and I said, I'm behind you 100% on this. Normally I would side on the side of the council, but this time I'm taking a different approach. I think you need to look at this with a clear eye, because when you have somebody who has given so much to this community, I don't care what his last name is, or if it's a he or a she, you need to have a heart in this. Take that, and I know where you're going from, man, because I sat up there with you.
But this is one of these cases, I think we need to readjust this and take a look at it. And that's just my opinion for what it's worth.
I'd just like to make sure that everybody knows that everyone up here, I'm sure, appreciates all that he's done, and I hope continues to stay involved. It's not about him in our position. It's about the ordinance and how it was written and why.
But it's not about him for us sitting over here either. It's about what he's given and how he's helped and what he's provided and what he knows and what he brings to the table. I don't care if it's Mark Niles or Jackie Duck. But if they've got that and they're willing to volunteer it, it's just ridiculous. I don't care if it's an ordinance or not. It's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I just say something about things that I've seen in different cities I've been in? Is when I was in Villisca, which was a much smaller town than here, we had the same problem getting volunteers to do things. So what I seen the city council do was they needed a board member for the board of trustees for the electric utility. The person that wanted to be on the board lived outside the city limits, but he was a customer of the power plant. So what they did, and this is just a suggestion, it's just something I'm going to throw out there, was that they redid the ordinance where it said that they either had to be a customer or they had to own property within the city limits and be that type of a resident or business owner. I mean, it's just something I'm just throwing out there. I mean, I don't know all the nuances to all this and everything else, but I do know that I think Dr. Niles does really care about Tipton, and, you know, from what I've seen. So it's just something that maybe you could consider. I don't know, just
We looked at that
hoping for it.
we looked at that same situation in our previous town.
Oh.
And in that case, it was found that the Iowa code preempted
Who did it?
a non-resident. And that can be the case with other boards and commissions, though not necessarily the case of an economic development commission. So sometimes the code regulates and says you have to be a resident or an eligible elector. Sometimes it's silent on it, and it appears that so far on this situation, it appears to be silent. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Beck.
Linda, that's a new record.
On to the update of the status of the gas and electric rate ordinance, which would be Ryan?
Yeah. At your last meeting, you passed the first reading of the rate ordinance for both gas and electric. In the time since the meeting, some of the staff members approached me wanting to again review the structure of how the ordinance was written. They wanted, I think there was a feeling that, a concern that it was laid out correctly, or if it was changing rates too much too fast. Anyway, the staff suggested that we do one more review to make sure that the language of the ordinance and the rates that it contains are correct. And so we pulled the second reading off of this agenda, and we're going to meet with our consultant once again, but it won't be until around mid-July when we do that. So at that point, we may come back with a second reading if he says everything is okay, but it also might mean that something has to be redone, and we would have to come back with a brand new first reading. We just don't know yet. Anyway, that's why it was pulled for tonight.
All right, thank you. Now to the reports, the mayor's report. First of all, I should have said this at the end of that discussion. I want to thank everybody for being civil and having a good discussion. We may disagree on some things, but thank you for being respectful to everyone here. That was a really good discussion. And secondly, I wanted to thank Eric Irons and Danielle Baumert and Michael Thomas and Kelly Thomas. There was a week-long activities up in our upper shelter house in the park when it was like 110 degrees out, and they both donated air conditioners for those kids so they didn't all melt in that heat. So there you go. That's all I have to report. Any council reports?
I've got a couple reports.
Yes.
One is from the meeting of SEDCO last week. They had presented everyone on the board with a couple of options as far as how to maintain a budget with the fees that have been set for this year. They did come up with a couple of good options. Running the budget as it is now with those contributions, it would have a almost $27,000 negative. So they went through and tried to find ways to cut the budget. Obviously, the biggest expense is the salaries. So they reworked that with a 21% decrease in salaries and then an 18% decrease in salaries. And it's kind of odd how it worked out. The 21% decrease will leave a surplus of approximately $50. The 18% increase, which would take the secretarial staff down to 32 hours instead of 40. And she would forego health insurance. That actually made a $4,500 surplus. It came out at the meeting that the Board of Supervisors is in favor of option B. And so I think that's what's going to be looked at. They are going to get offered, hopefully, that building rent-free. They'll have no phone or internet expense. So that's how they're going to look to operate for the next year. So as long as everyone is on board, if anyone else, any of the other cities would say no, then it would have to be revisited. So that's kind of where SEDCO is at right now, so everyone knows. So, and also the airport met last week. They reelected the airport manager. Larry Lynch was present, and the hangar project is ready to proceed forward. All the appropriate paperwork has been approved. And then we were supposed to have a visit from a gentleman that is interested in putting an FBO out there, and that's a fixed base operation. He was not able to attend, so we're hoping to hear from him and maybe find something out further about that. So, that's all.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Boots. Anyone else?
Larry and I have been working on the bike. It's big.
Tell me about
I think Larry did some calculations and said that if anybody wanted to ride it, they'd have to be 14 feet tall. So I haven't seen anybody that large. So we use a ladder to get up and do what we've been doing to it. But we found out that it's not quite straight. It fell over and it's bent. Okay? So it's not bad. And so I went to the powers that be, and I went to Clay today, and I asked him if he could come down and check this thing out. And he did. And so tomorrow we're going to heat it and see if we can't get it back in line again. So I really appreciate Clay's efforts and coming down there and checking it out and figuring out a way to get this thing straight again. We're going to have to do some more painting on it, but that's okay. It'll be straight and it'll be repainted. And it's also going to be Tipton Tigers colors, not red and black. It's going to be tiger colors. And
All right.
it's going to represent our town when we put it up here, and so we think it'd be best to have it Tipton Tiger colors.
Thank you both for your work on that.
Yeah.
Huh?
Thank you both for your work on that.
Oh, yeah, it's been fun. Larry brought a ladder, but Clay brought one that's taller than yours. And I'm going to try to keep him on that, or I can get up on the top of it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lieber. Committee, city manager,
I don't have anything.
and department heads. says Superintendent Tabor will do an update on the interconnection agreement.
Well, the interconnection agreement is stalled at the moment. If you remember back about April of 2016, the council passed a resolution allowing us to spend $14,000 with Shermco Engineering to assist and stuff with this. Well, we knew there was going to be a $5,000 filing fee at that time, but we didn't know about the $50,000 filing fee. So we didn't have authorization from the council to spend what would boil down to about $77,000. So, and the deadline was last Friday, and we found this out pretty much on Wednesday, and they wouldn't give us they wouldn't extend the deadline. So we're delayed for a year. We'll pick back up in March of 2018, and then we'll go through the steps again.
All right.
I think for that, though, we talked about getting something that's more like a timeline or a drawdown schedule for payments that are to happen along the way.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you. Now we're to the adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Deaver with the first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
McCann? Brooks?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spears?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.